It's not even up to 24 hours. The president signed the bill that same night. Not up to 7 hours. So immediately they left the National Assembly, they went to so the president was waiting for them. Everything that you saw had already been scripted. People should begin to ask Mr. President, what are you coming to do in 2027? What are you coming to do when you rig your way into power in 2027? What will be the benefit of Nigerians beyond 2027? What will be the gains of Nigeria beyond 2027? Can you reflect back as a president of this country to say, under my watch, Nigerians are enjoying this, Nigerians are enjoying that? What can you attribute to say that this is my achievement?
We have the National Chairman of the Democratic Leadership Alliance, one of the newly registered political parties, Sir Memeh, who is a legal mind based here at the nation's capital. All right, let's start with the most topical issue right now, which is the FCT council elections. Quite a number of reactions have been trailing this election. And of course, the conduct of the elections and its outcome, many say, signal the death of democracy in Nigeria. Give us your honest assessment.
Well, what you see, or what we experienced on Saturday, is a reflection of what we have already known, as a result of the desperation by the ruling party. Of course, you saw what happened on the day, how elections were manipulated, and the issue of IREP also came to bear, So, unfortunately, the issue of voter apathy is another issue entirely, that's around the election. But most importantly is that Nigerians should begin to, realize that this country belongs to all of us. The more we try to be discouraged from involving in elections, the more this country will continue to go down.
So your assessment of the elections generally, some persons have argued that the result is a reflection of the popularity of the ruling party, of the good work they are doing. Do you accept with that assessment?
There's no doubt that there are some persons in the government, even in the ruling party, in some quarters, that are doing well. But when you want to, use that to reflect about what happened in the FCT, I would totally disagree with you. Because, for instance, in Amac, we saw a lot of, I was in the field on that day. We moved around, we saw a lot of irregularities, we saw even the policies by the FCT minister to impose coffee from the previous day of the election, down to the days of election, and the movement and this election was characterized by vote buying. In some quarters, some persons were prevented from voting. We saw some of these things, and when you look at some of these issues, you begin to wonder if there is hope for this country. And in total response, my honest response would be that we are really in a big trouble in this country as far as issues of leadership is concerned.
All right, and of course, the 22-hour movement restriction declared by the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, ahead of the elections. Critics have raised several questions regarding its legality, necessity, impact on democracy. What's your take?
It is part of a calculated way, to subvert the will of the people. Because we saw, of course, I listened to the senator representing the FCT, Senator Kingibu, when she, during the interview a day preceding the election, and some of the complaints by the FCT residents, including myself and some other persons who would have, there are some persons who, register their voting points, or who their voting point is far from their residence. And this is FCT, there are no issues about crises or fighting during the period of campaign. So the issue of imposing coffee before the election and total restriction of movement, there are some quarters where some major roads were completely barricaded by security operatives, preventing people from accessing their polling units. All of these things were calculated to ensure that people who intend to vote for those in the opposition were prevented from coming out to vote. And those who are desperately in need to ensure that they get into power were allowed access to, to pass through. And this is quite unfortunate. And all of these things, like I mentioned, is aimed at ensuring that this election is totally rigged in favor of the ruling government, which is the APC.
Some have said that the curfew was a ploy to checkmate voter turnout or even manipulate the electoral process. Do you share that sentiment?
Of course, that is true. Like I stated it earlier on, that everything is actually skewed to ensure that people were prevented. And when you interview Nigerians across board, an average Nigerian don't even see the need, to come out to vote. It is a very bad precedent we are setting for the subsequent elections that is coming up. And it is led for Nigerians to know and to understand that, look, no matter how much they try to prevent people from voting, the moment you start being discouraged from voting, the more you are giving opportunity to the oppressors and those who want to ensure that this country does not move forward.
A senior advocate of Nigeria, Jibrin Okutekba, has said that the outcome of the FCT election showed that votes of Nigerians do not matter and Nigerians do not determine who govern them, and that 2027 elections will be more terrible and brazen than what happened in FCT on 21st of this month. What's your take on that?
I totally align with Okutekba because it's very clear. It is visible, it is audible, and the message is clear. Don't forget that before the election, the FCT minister rightly said that the APC members should vote and leave the rest for him. It was loud. Nigerians are already tired. In my estate, for instance, there is a polling unit there. Only very few people turned out to vote because in their mind, in their thinking, these elections had already been rigged. But that is not the mindset that an average Nigerian, a patriotic Nigerian should have. So we should continue to engage in voter sensitization and all of those things so that Nigerians should not be discouraged. Nigerians should come out en masse and prepare for the next elections and ensure that we do the right thing. Because there are still going to be more manipulations ahead of the 2027 elections. There's still going to be more discouragement. And if you ask those that are the ruling party, members of the ruling party, they are enjoying what is going on because there is a level to which they are sharing some little empowerment, money that is meant for the general public. They are diverting it to personal interest, sharing some of these little stipends to their members. So when you see an APC member talking, he will talk as if he's so passionate about their party, about the country. But all of these things is because of what they are getting from their meetings. What is supposed to be meant for the development of the country, they are sharing it at their ward level, at their ward meetings, at their local government meetings, in their party.
INEC, 2 hours after the election has started, that's talking about the FCT election still, we saw INEC sending messages to people that you have been moved, your polling unit has been moved to point A and no longer point B. Yet today, they are also denied the same thing, that people have empirical data to buttress the fact that INEC. Was it part of the ploy by INEC? And what level of confidence do you have on INEC going to 27 elections using this as a foretaste?
If the instruction or the messages sent out to voters actually came true, because I can tell you, many persons that are in INEC, they are members of the ruling party.
For sure, you know that's for sure.
I can tell you that. Many of them, they are members. I'm not saying they are sympathetic to the ruling government. I'm saying that they are members of the party. If you look at their character, the way their dispositions, their rules, their policies, and everything they do towards the government, it has always been so. That is because we do not really have independent National Electoral Commission. It's operating on paper. But the question now is, how do we have a system that is accountable? The Independent National Electoral Commission has failed Nigerians over the years. And there are so many factors that has led to this failure. The staffs, the presiding officers, there are still some persons who really have the integrity to pilot their affairs. But there are so many bad eggs within the system. We have the commissioners appointed by the president. You have some of the staffs, some of these staffs lobbied and get their way into the commission through their allegiance with the ruling party.
All right, let's leave the FCT election and go to what happened at the National Assembly when they called the bluff of Nigerians vis-a-vis the Electoral Act, with Nigerians demanding that they wanted mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results. But they provided an injurious proviso that where the electronic fails, they will now resort to manual. And the president, in less than 24 hours, signed that act into law, even raising some issues that made it look as if it was waiting in ambush for Nigerians. As a Nigerian, how did you feel seeing all those things that happened between the National Assembly and the president?
It's not even up to 24 hours. You know, the president signed the bill that same night. Not up to 7 hours. So immediately they left the National Assembly, they went to so the president was waiting for them. Everything that you saw had already been scripted. And if you listen to the president's speech, he said that some of the processes are handled by human, you vote manually, you and some of the reasons, and they try to give. In a country where this is a very large country, we are blessed as a people. But unfortunately, we have leaders who do not even have the good intention of the people. They feel they're going to live forever. They're not going to live forever. And look at what he's doing to Nigeria. Look at the kind of pains that we are facing as a people. Now, can President Tinubu, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, tell us what he has done? Let him tell us practically, as the president of Nigeria. We're not talking about removing fuel subsidy and giving more money to the governors. The question is, you don't have all the governors under your foot. You are giving them money. Have you called them to a closed door session to ask them, look, you have gotten this kind of money. You have gotten this money. You have gotten this amount of money. What have you done? Because you have deprived Nigerians from the little things that we're not even enjoying even during the time of Buhari, but the little things we're even still living our life, you're taking it away from us. You have not increased salaries. The country is going down. High level of insecurity. You are not bothered about that. You are bothered about coming back to power. To do what? To do what? People should begin to ask Mr. President, what are you coming to do in 2027? What are you coming to do when you rig your way into power in 2027? What will be the benefit of Nigerians beyond 2027? What will be the gains of Nigeria beyond 2027? Can you reflect back as a president of this country to say, under my watch, Nigerians are enjoying this, Nigerians are enjoying that. What can he attribute to say that this is my achievement? Should it be that his achievement is that he is a president of Nigeria for 8 years and now have the power to do whatever he wants to do? What steps is he taking in place to improve the technological aspect of this country? Now we are talking about technology that Nigeria is not strong enough to hold elections and the rest of them electronically transmit, and the rest of them, there are some areas there is no network, there are some areas that you can't even go, there are some areas that are, being governed by non-state actors. And with the speed of light, you are signing electoral bill into law, irrespective of what Nigerians are clamoring for. And again, just like I said the last time, that now that the Electoral Act has been signed into law, now all responsibility has now been shifted to the INEC. Is INEC ready and prepared? In my opinion, I would say no. INEC is not ready. Because the same people that are in INEC would make it practically impossible. Just ordinary FCT elections with local government, we can't even conduct free and fair election because of desperation to prove a point that, we are the ruling government, we must take it, we don't want to give the impression to the world that we are not on ground in FCT, so therefore we should do everything to ensure that we grab the power and run away with the power. I don't have any problem with any person winning elections, but the most important thing is that when you win or you are declared winner of an election, prove your people that you can do something right. In FCT, the streets are not being kept. There are no drainages. There are some areas you can't even access. There are no roads in some areas, even in Amak, for instance. So what then is the benefit of governance? And Nigerians are overtaxed. Stamp duty here and there, VAT here and there, different tax, different levies, particularly levies that have to do with transactions from one bank to another. When you want to cut your hair, you want to buy food, you want to do anything, VAT. Now, every Nigerian is now paying tax on a daily basis. Even a child of 7 years is paying tax in one way or the other. So who is in possession of these funds? How is it translating into development for the well-being of Nigerians? The question is nothing to show. And somebody is sitting down there presiding over these huge resources and without taking account of what the people really need. How can we develop this country?
All right, now that the National Assembly and the Executive have killed what Nigerians perceive to be a stepping stone to a transparent election, what should Nigerians do ahead of 2027?
Well, there's quite a number of things Nigerians can do because the legislative arm of government, particularly the Senate, is taking full instruction. They are more like a ministry under the presidency. So now, what should Nigerians begin to do? My recommendation would be that this is even the time that Nigerians should be more angrier. Nigerians should not be discouraged. Nigerians should not think that the whole hope is gone. If any Nigerian is even thinking that, oh, we have been conquered entirely, because when you go on social media, when you see people's comments, you see Nigerians are agitating that we have been conquered, there's nothing we can do. More people want to leave the country. My advice would be that it is now that Nigerians should show to Nigeria that they are patriotic, they care about this country. Those who are not registered to vote should begin to make inquiry, should begin to monitor the processes and get themselves voters' card, begin to assess where they can vote. Because in the long run, in 2027 elections, I know there will be more restriction. They're going to make provision for them to move around. Then those other guys who are not in the ruling party, they may have challenges in moving to vote. Nigerians should take the options of probably changing their polling units to a more comfortable area or a polling unit closer to where they live. So that when there is restriction, when there is coffee or whatsoever they want to impose, or when they say people should not come out at all, you can still be able to walk to your polling unit and vote. When we have more people coming out to vote, it makes it difficult for rigging to successfully take place. But where you have less people coming out to vote, it makes it easy for the system to rig the process. So Nigerians should brace up. Nigerians should not be tired. Nigerians should not be discouraged to say, oh, the whole exercise is gone. Everybody, the city boy, that I'm not saying that we're not here campaigning for anybody or discouraging anybody from voting for a particular person or so. But if you feel that the current representative in governance today, that they have done well, come out en masse to vote. If you feel that they have not done so well, still come out and choose your preferred candidate and vote. And most importantly, Nigerians should not think that the vote you put for other political parties are wasteful. No. Identify the individual candidates, identify the interests of the political parties, identify parties with ideology, then begin to identify them. Nigerians should not now be involved in party politics, because this is the only way we can get ourselves out of this quagmire.
Some persons have argued that this administration has used the security agencies in a way they shouldn't, and have also weaponized the judiciary as a political weapon. And then they've also argued that President Bola Tinubu has not strengthened democracy, but weakened democracy. What's your take?
It is very clear. This is not a mere opinion. This is the facts. And for me, I really pity the security agencies, because in the long run, those who give directive to the junior officers to block the roads, prevent protesters from having access to meet their representatives and to submit their petitions, are those directly benefiting from the high level of those in power. And they give instruction to the junior officers to do whatever they want to do and give them little peanuts. In a serious country, the security agencies are well positioned, they are well fed, they are well salaried, they are very much okay. But in Nigeria, an average security man in this country, for instance, the police, an average police officer, if you put his salaries together, cannot even take care of his house rent. That's the reality. Because here in Abuja, if you want to live a reasonable house, you can't pay less than 3.5 million naira for a 2 or 3 bedroom. So if you're a police officer, your salary is about 250,000 naira thereabout. Put it together for 1 year, what's your salary? If they are not relying on corrupt activities from their offices, so how will they live their life? And when you see people coming out to protest or to tell the government what they should do or suggest something, you see people coming out to tear gas them and drive them away and all of those things. It's quite unfortunate. I really pity the security agencies of this country. Those in power, particularly the executive arm of government, have weaponized poverty. It saw that even in this FC election, the monies were shared, 10,000 and the rest of them. And that is because an average Nigerian who do not even have something to eat will feel like, oh, let me just take this 10,000 naira. This one is making promises. Maybe tomorrow you can even vote him, and the next moment he's moving to the other political party. A lot of things goes through the mind of an average Nigerian. Then you talk about the judiciary. The judiciary again has also been weaponized. They have captured the judiciary, but it's only judiciary that can rescue itself. So the judiciary is based on conscience and based on law and procedure. If you have been given instruction to do something and you know that as the judicial officer, and one day you will retire and you'll be a retired judge, and you reflect back and look at the country and say, this is a country that I worked for over the years. And now you have given wrong judgments, you have manipulated the processes, and you can't go back again to revisit some of your judgments that you are giving, particularly judgment that has to do with against the people, and judgment that is aimed to provide some kind of benefits for the general masses. And what you've done is you take money from the government, you give orders, you approve orders, you give judgments against the people, particularly electoral cases, for instance. You manipulate the processes, just like now this new law, this new act is going to be a subject of debate in next year's tribunal and Court of Appeal and the rest of them. They're going to give so many interpretations, and that is the aim of putting that proviso.
All right, some Nigerians have argued that the opposition is dead, or at best, they didn't do enough to mobilize Nigerians against the sinister plot of the National Assembly. What's your take?
Again, this is right. The assertion is correct. Do we really have opposition in this country? The answer is no. Until now. I have not really seen, even in the midst of all, I've not seen any political party that issues statements before now that, oh, we are in support of this, or we are in, because many of the opposition political parties have been infiltrated by the desperate ruling political system. They've infiltrated their national leadership. They have tied them in such a way that they can't even speak, they can't even talk. But who would you blame? Are you going to blame those who had infiltrated your system, or you will blame yourself for not being able to live up to expectation? I will say that I will blame the opposition political parties for not being able to defend the interests of Nigeria.
All right, do you see the 2027 elections being competitive, genuinely competitive, given that almost all the governors are now in APC, the political structures have collapsed into the APC? Against this background, do you think that 2027 elections will be genuinely competitive?
Yes.
Why?
It will be very, very competitive. And of course, you see, the agenda is to make it seem like it's already a one-way thing. And don't forget that these elections are of different categories. You have the National Assembly, you have the presidential election, you have the governorship election, and the State House of Assembly elections. Nigerians at various levels, if we begin to brace up the right attitude, if we begin to brace up the right mentality, it's going to be very, very competitive. The few people that you've seen moving into the ruling party, the APC, for instance, the governors, the House of Assembly members, the local government chairmen, these are political leaders. They do not reflect the greater number of the masses at these various states. And I still believe that there are still Nigerians who are passionate about seeing this country work. And that is why I said it's going to be competitive, because the more, if we continue to engage in voters' sensitization in this country, and Nigerians begin to embrace that there is the need for them to come out to vote, then I can say that it's going to be competitive. It therefore means that people would definitely want to come out to vote. And we don't know the candidates that will be brought out by the various political parties at different levels. We have seen a former president in this country losing an election. Former President Goodluck Jonathan lost an election. When it is overwhelming, it will be difficult to vote, to rig. And that is why I say that one way for us to achieve this thing is that Nigerians should begin to brace up. The media must help too, to give opportunity to those in the opposition party to speak up. Because when we begin to sensitize Nigerians, we'll begin to have some level of alternative system where people can, somehow begin to have alternative to, buttress and speak up through their votes.
All right, let's look at, as a patriotic Nigerian, given the wanton destruction of lives and property across the length and breadth of the country, are we better off and safer as we are today than we were 4 years ago? And if the answer is in negative, should such a commander-in-chief be given a second chance?
I can tell you, I have never had confidence in this government. I have never had confidence in the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I have never had confidence in APC government. I have never believed, not even tomorrow will I believe, that this current administration have solution to issues affecting this country. They don't even have up to 10% of the solutions, unfortunately. And when you look at what is going on in Nigeria, the issues of killing, ordinary recommendations, the inability to implement policies that will enhance the safety of lives and properties of this country has been neglected over the years. The issues of movement of cattle from one community to another has affected livelihood and exposed our people at the various communities to security threats, killings, and destructions of lives. But what have they done? We have made so many recommendations, even to the Office of the Inspector General of Police and the DSS, that look, the movement of cattle from one village to another through the nomadic approach is one thing that it contributes almost about 70% of our insecurity in this country. And you have seen that the government approach has been like it doesn't matter to them. And that is why when you see them moving, when you see the officials of government moving, you see the level of security attached to them, to their convoy, just to provide security to them. There are villages in this country, there are communities in this country, there are local government in this country that doesn't even have the presence of security. And we have a commander-in-chief. I do not believe, and I hold this belief very strongly, that the current administration led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have the solution for this country. It doesn't even have what it takes to govern this country. And that is why you see that on a daily basis, this country is going down. If this president is allowed to continue beyond 2027, from 2027 to 2031, it's going to be a very difficult time for Nigeria. I can't even imagine how Nigeria will survive if we allow this trend to continue. Except somehow he just realized that there is the need for him to be patriotic for once, for him to give Nigerians good governance, for him to listen to the good voices of Nigeria, to say, okay, what should I do to protect lives and properties? What should I do to improve the economic well-being of this country? Now, when you look at some of these state governors that are moving, has the president even called some of these governors one after the other to say, look, you are coming into my party. You contest under the platform of another political party. We were completely on two different platforms. And you say you're going to do, is going to do. Now you are in my political party. What have you done in your state? What is the blueprint you have for industry? What is the blueprint you have for development? What is the blueprint? It's not really about payment of salaries and construction of few streets and few roads. That is not how a country is developed. What kind of investment are you attracting? Not investment you are promising the people to do. What have you done in real time? Where is the evidence?
All right, INEC has registered 2 political parties, bringing the number of parties to 21, with DLA and NDC being the 2 lucky ones to go through the hurdles, all the rigorous processes to get registered. For someone hearing about DLA for the very first time, what are the ideologies of this party? And what will you tell anybody listening to you now?
Well, the DLA, Democratic Leadership Alliance, is a party that is rooted in leadership, recruitment processes, trainings for the young people, and including the old ones who want to go into leadership position in this country, for them to understand that this is what leadership entails. When you get into governance, this is what is expected of you. And for those that are coming under the platform of the party, and the party basically is not just a vehicle for attaining political power. It's an institution, it's a political party that is rooted in science and technology. And even before we became a political party, we have been operating as an association. We have been uplifting the life of our members. We have been engaging in trainings in the area of science and technology, and we're going to do that now that we are a political party. It is a product of diligence, a product of hard work, it's a product of, leading by example, as we simply, as the name entails, and what we are, what we represent. And interestingly, I can say that looking at the system of Nigeria and how so many things had happened, I would say that we are somehow lucky, and because it's not really easy to pass through the order to be registered as a political party under this current dispensation. So we worked for it, we merited it, and today we are here. And I will tell Nigerians a few things about the DLA. There is quite a lot of things we've been able to correct in our constitution. First, you cannot hold position in a party without undergoing the 3 months mandatory training under the political party. It's a leadership training course that enables the executive officers of the party to understand the ideology of the party, that this party is rooted in leadership. Because we understand that one of the major challenges we are facing in this country is deficit in leadership. And when we talk about leadership, people think that once you are elected as an officer to represent the people or a governor, you're automatically a leader. We do not see that on the surface, that because you are an elected officer, you're automatically a leader. No. We can refer you as a leader based on your antecedents and based on your concern for the people, your level of your ability to transform their lives, your empathy. Not somebody who is elected and you feel that whatever you can do at all time is to protect yourself, protect your kitchen cabinet and the rest of them. A leader is somebody who believes that there is a need to think for the future of the people, think for the future of the nation, and implement programs and projects that will uplift the lives of the people. And that is what the DLA stands for. And beside that, we want to develop this country scientifically. And we have seen that there is a need for us to be involved in manufacturing. Many of our members have traveled out of this country, they are not in the country, undergoing different trainings in science and technology. And as a political party, we are going to build and own certain infrastructure to begin to produce things that Nigerian government could not do. Winning elections is going to be a gain and more like a profit for the political party. We're going to run our party as a full-fledged institution at all levels and to galvanize and give hope and trust for the Nigerian masses. To say, look, for being a member of the party is something that one should be proud of in the first place. So when we get into power, before we get into power, begin to elect people into various offices, we must have been able to achieve a lot as a political party. And most importantly, as a political institution, a political party, we will not support our representatives when they are doing something wrong. We will not say because you are elected under the platform of the DLA and we have our manifesto, a clear-cut manifesto. And like I said earlier on, we have our manifesto and what we intend to do for Nigeria. This is the first time that Nigerians are going to vote for a political party and not individual. Because we will not tolerate any person who is elected under the platform of the party deviating from the core value of the party. If what we want to achieve as a political party is A, B, C, and you are now trying to bring in D, E, and F into it, we'll stop you.
How do you stop the person?
There are so many mechanisms in place that we put in our constitution. For instance, if you want to contest under the platform of the party, you undergo the leadership training of 3 months and extra 2 months to understand the manifesto of the political party. You also swear an affidavit and oath of allegiance to implement the programs of the party at any level that you find yourself. It is a prerequisite to obtain the party's expression of interest form and to ensure that the confidence given to you by the members of the party and the general populace of Nigeria must be seen to manifest for the benefit of Nigeria. And like you asked, how do you intend to stop them? There are so many processes to adopt. We can call them. If we have you in National Assembly, for instance, you have some persons in National Assembly who would compromise with the current leadership, for instance, or people who are ruling the country, and then compromise on the issues of policy. If, as a political party, we do not stand or support such a policy, the representative of the party have a responsibility to stand for what the party believes.
Supposing the person decides to defect,
then we'll take appropriate measure.
But we've not seen any political party regain any seats, or it's been a long time in seeing or coming that a political party regained a seat because a candidate who is now representing them defected on that part. So how will yours be different?
Yes, we have a provision in our constitution that put extra measure. We understand what the Electoral Act says about the issue of defection and under the condition which such a defection can be valid. Now, in the case of where there are issues or leadership tussles at the national level, and as the case may be, but in our political party, we have incorporated a provision in the constitution that mandates every aspirant who wants to contest under the party, under the platform of the party, to take extra measure by subscribing to the oath, and it must be done to the Federal High Court. Yes, it's there in the constitution of the party. And when you do that, and the next day, you decide to leave the party, we will test the waters. And I can tell you that 100% will reclaim that seat back.
All right, let's wrap up this way. A lot of Nigerians complain, don't do anything. There's very few people organize. What will your party be doing differently from other allegedly dead opposition parties?
Very fantastic question. And that is one of the leadership advocacy that we have been carrying out all along. As a political party, we will take steps to challenge the issues of policy or any policies that is not in tandem with the policies that appears to work in the interests of Nigeria. As a political party, we will challenge certain policies in the law courts. As a political party, we will organize protests and would make known our demands as we move forward. We will not be a dormant political party waiting for every cycle of election to contest elections. We are going to fight for the interest and for the soul of Nigeria.